What TV show ended too early? Nearly every actor they used for the serial killers in that show hit the nail on the head. I hadn't realized, but I had heard an audiobook that Kemper had recorded in prison. During the 80s, audiobooks were a small market for the blind, so they were often recorded by prison inmates. And the show is what made me realize it was him. Oh, I liked this show. My sophomore language arts teacher used to play it for us all the time. He was a huge movie/TV show buff, and from day one of class he made it very clear the class was language arts in name only, and he taught it as a movie class instead. It was awesome. Instead of writing essays, we wrote short scripts and learned how to sketch out our movie scenes to go with it. He was one of my favorite teachers. I mean, we did do some language arts like poetry and Shakespeare and books that had been adapted into movies, but 90% of the class was movies and TV shows. I heard that the general concept of pushing daisies was an idea they had for an episode of Dead Like Me, but it was either too big and clunky to make it work as an episode, or maybe they decided it was too good of an idea to waste on one episode. So they just kind of tucked it away for later and eventually made a whole show based on it. I wish we had more of that show, and it might literally be the most underrated in its time show in American TV history. I mean, it basically set the template for the next 15 years of comedies and dramedies, but it did end so perfectly with what it had, and so many people went on from it to do bigger things and carry on its legacy, that it's hard to argue that it didn't exist in its best form. Rome literally contributed to its own demise, much like the empire. Amazing writing and acting, but it spent far more on sets and wardrobe than any TV series of the time. It might be justifiable to have Miami Vice budgets, but not before you have a Miami Vice global audience. HBO or Netflix should reboot it. It'll provide all the tits and killings, political intrigue and deep storytelling that former GOT fans want, and no need for expensive useless CGI dragons. Spoilers, I revisit this one often. The ending with the girl who may or may not be Tara is gut-wrenching to watch. The empty hangouts, the sparse score. It's so eerie. Then the final lines, "Things change, Beast Boy. The girl you want me to be is just a memory. You go. You're the Teen Titan, not me. I'm not a hero. I'm not out to save the world. I'm just a girl with a geometry test next period and I haven't studied." I love the ending and hated how we never had a follow-up season explaining Tara's missing statue and the sudden appearance of her doppelganger. My personal theory from all those years ago was that was half of Tara. When Raven defeated her father and undid his damage, she inadvertently unpetrified Tara. This was because the world's population was also turned to stone during the apocalypse. Meaning the counterspell would have also affected Tara. However, there might have been a side effect, which was splitting her in half and memory loss. I say half because at the beginning of the episode we see a new monster that can control and morph into stone and minerals, which is very much like Tara's powers, which I believe is where they went or became. I honestly believe that creature was Tara's powers brought to life, and is either rampaging because of being newly alive or is looking for Tara to become whole. If there was another season, I would have like a storyline made revolving around the return of Slade. Slade monitoring not Tara and the rock monster. and Slade forming to use the rock creature and gaining it power using some elaborate scheme involving around not Terra. My Teen Titans Go obsessed daughter, she's 8, so there's your litmus test on good taste, watched the movie several times. Yes, the Raven interactions were the absolute best parts of that movie. It also got her interested enough to go and watch all of the other Teen Titans material. She's now asking me for any comics or graphic novels I can find. The way Netflix handles contracts, shows become significantly more expensive to produce after 2 seasons, and the costs increase again after the 3rd. So they'd rather put their money into expanding their content offerings, making more new shows, than funding an underperforming show that is only going to get more expensive the longer the series goes on. https://www.wired.com/story/y-netflix-keeps-just-2-seasons. While you're not wrong at all, when it comes to Mindhunter, it was David Fincher who put it on hold. It still hasn't been cancelled. It is still on hold, and I recall the cast and even David Fincher himself saying they did want to do more eventually, but who knows when or if it will actually happen. Edit: Fincher, not Lynch. Supposedly there's going to be one last movie to close out the story properly. Basically everything that was going to be the final season turned into a movie. Brendan Small made a post about it many months ago, saying he finally got a green light from Adult Swim to actually finish the series. Since he already had the final season basically written and ready to begin production right before Adult Swim bailed on him again. Because they cancelled the show, Brendan wrote the last season and then tried to get it funded separately since Adult Swim initially told him it was a budget issue. He got the funds, they said they were good to go ahead with production, and then right before starting pulled out. Then a few years went by with no word from them, and suddenly Brendan makes a post saying they changed their minds, but only for a final movie instead of a full season, along with another Death Clock album to pair with it. I haven't checked in on him or that progress since the announcement, so I hope it's still all happening as planned. Did you see what Adult Swim did? They were being flooded with angry emails, letters, phone calls. So, they put a petition on their website and had a live stream of a printer feeding the petitions into a shredder in real time. I will never understand the business mentality of let's get rid of the best and bring in the worst. Happened at my former employer, and now they wonder why so many people quit and everyone hates life there. https://www.reddit.com/r/ima/comments/1 New Jersey DDC/I'm_Greg_Garcia_creator_my_name_is_Earl_raising. We never really got the chance to fully figure it out, but the talk in the writer's room was that Earl Jr.'s dad was going to be someone famous. Like Dave Chappelle or Lil Jon. Someone that came to town on tour and Joy slept with. But when we got cancelled we never got the chance to figure it out. I was worried about doing a cliffhanger, but I asked NBC if it was safe to do one at the end of the season and they told me it was. I guess it wasn't. I had always had an ending to Earl and I'm sorry I didn't get the chance to see it happen. You've got a show about a guy with a list, so not seeing him finish it is a bummer. But the truth is, he wasn't ever going to finish the list. The basic idea of the ending was that while he was stuck on a really hard list item, he was going to start to get frustrated that he was never going to finish it. Then he runs into someone who had a list of their own and Earl was on it. They needed to make up for something bad they had done to Earl. He asks them where they got the idea of making a list, and they tell him that someone came to them with a list and that person got the idea from someone else. Earl eventually realizes that his list started a chain reaction of people with list and that he's finally put more good into the world than bad. So at that point he was going to tear up his list and go live his life. Walk into the sunset a free man. With good karma. My pet theory is that Fox wanted their sci-fi shows to hit Star Trek numbers without looking at the history of the show, that the first season usually started slow, and often bad, but that each show built up its fan base over time. With Almost Human, Firefly and Dollhouse, and many other shows since the 80s, Fox followed the same playbook: show episode 1, or in Firefly's case force a repilot and show that, panic when it didn't immediately pull in the numbers of fans they hoped, shuffled the viewing order until everyone was confused, then cancel the shows due to lack of popularity. I second this, but wasn't it on BBC America? I love this show so much. The first season was fantastic, and the second season was very out there, which I loved, but for casual viewers it was too much, too soon. The creators should have worked their way up the ladder of weirdness instead of skipping straight to the top. I would have loved to see a 5-season arcade if season 2 was swapped with season 3 or 4. The show and the books really have nothing in common except for the name and a few concepts like time travel or the way that every weird thing eventually ties into the central plot. The setting is completely different, the mystery is completely different, the plot is completely different, the character and backstory of Dirk is completely different, and no other characters from the book are in it. Saying that it's incorporating either of the books is a bit of a stretch. It was a show me and my BF discovered together out of boredom and no idea what to watch but still wanna do nothing kinda night. We binged it for almost a week. Every time we were together it was Santa Clarita Diet time. We don't like to read ahead, even the idea of the show, so we had no idea how long it is. When we got to the final episode we started screaming at the end and jumped up to hit next episode without the 5-second wait. Imagine our faces when we discovered it was a forever wait. Absolutely shat on Netflix. It kills me I don't know the rest of the story. A while back, the AV Club did an interview with Daniel Knopf in which he detailed his plans for seasons 3, 4, 5, 6 of the show. Interview Part 1. Interview Part 2. It's bittersweet but this is the only closure we're gonna get. I think Knopf's plans would have been amazing had they been realized, but I'm glad to at least have an ending to the story. And a damn good one at that. Eureka overall had a good run. I agree it was running out of steam toward the end and it's probably good they didn't squeeze any more seasons out of it. Also re-watching season 1, having a billionaire egotistical genius inventor named Stark running the company did not age well on the layman's subtle reference-o-meter. I think the first Iron Man film was just starting production when Eureka first premiered. Don't get me wrong, the cast was the best for that show but there was something amazing about the atmosphere the show created for the universe with the gritty outer worlds and the super clean inner worlds. It felt like a very well-built verse that we didn't get finished exploring. If some of the original cast comes back, that would be great, but if they get good writers and some good new actors, I'm cool with it. It was such a great show that just kind of needed more time for everything to pay off. I vaguely recall at the time a lot of people were streaming it later in the week instead of watching it live, and since streaming was a new feature, they weren't really keeping track of the streaming viewership. I wonder how popular it really was. There was so much potential for it to keep going, and of course ended on a huge cliffhanger. Or had proper writers who didn't say things like themes are for 8th grade book reports. Though they may actually be geniuses. I have never seen every aspect of a world and its characters so utterly broken down in such a short span of time. In one single line they undid years of character development for Jamie. It's honestly kind of impressive. Gravity Falls was written as a 2-season show. They weren't cancelled. Alex Hirsch literally decided to end it after 2 seasons because he hates how some TV shows, especially animated shows, tend to keep going just to make money with a significant dip in quality over time. He wanted to tell a story and he did. I sure wish he'd expand on the universe he created, but it is what it is. Does Ricky end up getting adopted by Mr. Kaminsky and his partner? How do Angela and Rayane evolve in their friendship after the Catalano backseat incident? And what is going to happen with Patty and Graham? Will he be swayed by Hallie's advances? Will they separate? Does the restaurant succeed? I hate that this show ended so early. Yes. Flash Forward and Invasion are 2 shows that really got screwed over when channels introduced the whole mid-season finale setup. Taking a 2-month break in the middle of the season and then constantly moving the time and day it was on when it was brought back killed the show. People couldn't figure out when it was on to watch. The US version of Life on Mars. The writers/actors/crew burned it to the ground with a ridiculous finale to make sure it never come back after the writers' strike. The original British series not only finished, but came back with a sequel series with the same characters in the 80s, instead of the 70s. The American cast was just really good together. Jason O'Mara, Michael Imperioli, Harvey Keitel, and Gretchen Mol especially. Underrated show, had to scroll too far for this. Loved it, the character development was really good, even though I normally don't like that type of show. Season 2 somehow managed not to ruin the progress from the first, add in a nice twist, and an emotional ending. Really good show, couldn't have hurt. Star Trek Enterprise. If the series would have been given the green light for the next season, we would not have had the worst series finale ever. The only good thing that came from the finale, I felt so awful after watching it that I leveled up my geekness and started reading Star Trek novels. Rip Trip, Winky Face, Shran was supposedly going to join the crew the next season. It ended when it was supposed to end and how it was supposed to end. The showrunners, I know Dan Levy has said this, only wanted 6 seasons and ended it the way they wanted it to end at the time they wanted it to end. Had they done more seasons because of the fans and popularity, we could have ended up with another supernatural situation. Sure, we want more, but we don't need it and it can tarnish the perfection we already have. I haven't seen it mentioned and I'm too tired of scrolling looking for it, so I'll say, BoJack Horseman. Apparently Netflix didn't like that the studio making it was unionizing, but the show was so popular that they gave them one more season to finish up the story. It was supposed to go longer than it did, and it kind of got a non-ending because they didn't have the time they needed to do the planned ending.